Hi again, everybody, and thanks for joining me for another episode of Ask the Lawyer. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that has been in the news a lot lately, and it's the opioid crisis. It doesn't seem to be getting any better anytime soon, and my guest is here to help us better understand it, what it is, and how the courts are getting involved. And my guest is attorney Wayne Parsons of the Wayne Parsons Law Offices based in Honolulu, Hawaii. Wayne, thank you for making some time for us today.
Good to be here.
We hear a lot in the news about the opioid crisis. Let's kind of start at the beginning. Let's start with a definition. What is an opioid? What are we talking about?
Well, it's a class of pharmaceutical drugs, and it's been well known to have analgesic properties. That means it kills pain, and it's also known to be extremely. The opioids are known to be addictive and can be abused because they trigger the reward centers in the brain. Traditionally, opioids have been used for acute pain, short-term use for people who have had surgery or are having surgery, or for people who are oftentimes at the end of life situations with cancer.
And so that doesn't sound so bad. Where does the crisis come in? Where's the problem?
Well, traditionally, and when I say traditionally, up until about 1990, the medical profession had very strict standards for prescribing opioids. They prescribed them only for those acute situations. There was no long-term use of opioids. And then in 1990s, a long time-release version of opioids was created. And the pharmaceutical industry began to promote the use of those products, a time-release form of opioid. The name of that was OxyContin. And they started promoting it as being proper to use for pain management, for chronic pain. That means long-term use over a long period of time. And that's when it all started. All of a sudden, doctors now were being told it was okay to use an opioid for chronic pain. And chronic pain patients have a lot of problems, and they're in need of help. And this was a good thing for them, they thought. And the pharmaceutical industry marketed these products to doctors as less addictive. Don't worry about the addiction and the abuse. These are different kinds of products, and they're okay to prescribe for long-term use. That's when it started.
And the problem is that they were addictive and they were misused?
Yes. The person with chronic pain who started taking drugs like OxyContin became addicted to OxyContin. And then the doctors saw the person was getting addicted and said, well, I can't give this to you anymore. Well, the person was addicted, and they would go out and try to find OxyContin on the street or get another doctor to prescribe it. So it became a problem that the pharmaceutical industry had created by their marketing programs, which targeted to doctors to say, well, this is okay, it's less addictive.
And were the manufacturers and or the doctors aware that this was a problem? Did the manufacturers know this was indeed an addictive drug that they were promoting people to take long term?
Yes, and that's the basis of the claims against we've all heard in the news, opioid litigation. We've heard that various states and county governments have sued the pharmaceutical industry and the distributors of these products and said, you misled us about their properties. And now we have thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people in the communities who are addicted and are non-functional, and their lives are falling apart. And the state has had to pay a lot of money for health care, and the federal government and the state governments have paid a lot of money for health care that was caused by this misrepresentation. And so those cases are well known to everybody. But the other side of this, and it's really what I'm doing, is there are individual people who are addicted, who have had overdoses, who have died, who have lost their jobs, who have lost custody of their children because of these products. And those individual stories, those personal injuries to those people are also a class of cases, a class of people who can bring claims against the manufacturers for what they did. It's the same theory about misleading and misrepresentations in advertising and marketing, but the end result for the state cases, it's for state government getting their tax money reimbursed for all the medical care they've had to give and pay for, and we're talking about individuals whose lives have been ruined, and those cases are geared towards getting those people back on their feet, getting them good treatment, and getting them some money to rebuild their lives.
And so, if someone hears that some of the state governors or the attorneys general have reached a settlement with one or more of the companies, that doesn't mean that they cannot, as individuals, seek damages. Correct?
That's right. That's right. And so, the companies that are responsible for this, it started back with a company called Purdue back in the 1990s. And many companies are making and distributing these products now. Those cases for individuals are what I'm doing, what I'm involved in.
What is the process, and are there difficulties in proving the liability in an opioid case?
Well, the proof is the same as the proof that the states will be using to prove that that they're entitled to get money back from these manufacturers for the billions of dollars spent on health care for the addicted and affected individuals. That it's the same proof. The damages in our case are different, meaning the harm and what we're getting money for is to rebuild somebody's life who lost their job or lost their health, who is an addict now and who has got a long future period of coping with addiction and other problems that come from opioids. So what a person needs to do is find a lawyer, person who has one of these problems or a family member has one of these problems. Find a lawyer who's experienced in defective product cases, which is a category of law, and who understands the concept of mass torts, because this involves thousands and thousands and thousands of people. It's not a class action, but there are a lot of people with individual claims, and also who understands bankruptcy, because in these cases, oftentimes at the end of the case, you're really having to go to bankruptcy court to get some of the money that comes out to the individuals.
And you've mentioned families a couple of times. Many times the victims are no longer with us in these cases. So family members of victims can also contact you and get help this way?
That's correct. And oftentimes that's the way it works. Addiction to an opioid, opiate addiction affects the family. It affects everybody that the person knows. It affects their family. It affects their jobs. It affects their employers. And so oftentimes we have people from a number of parts of that ohana, we call it in Hawaii, coming to us and saying, what can we do? Here's what's happened. Children are affected, who are left with parents who can't function or who lose a parent because of it. So anybody can contact a lawyer, and that lawyer can screen that case and look for the important aspects of what we need to prove opiate addiction caused the harm.
And I know it's probably a best guess on your part, but how long of a process would you imagine this will take, Wayne?
It can take years. People get involved. When I meet with a client, I say, look, this might be over relatively quickly, but the odds are it's going to take some time, and that person won't be that involved in what's going on. But as lawyers, we know this can be a long process. I do think the opioid crisis has triggered a lot of action, and we may be closer. We're not starting from scratch here. Lawsuits have been filed by many state governments, and the evidence of what happened here is well known, well established. I don't think there's a lot of debate about it, and but I think thinking in terms of years would be better than, it's not going to be a 6-month process.
And you're based in Hawaii, but you're able to help people from all over the country, correct?
Well, I primarily am focused on people in Hawaii. That's what I do.
Okay.
I'm a trial lawyer. I've been in Hawaii here practicing law for 40 years, and I'm more involved with Hawaii people who have been affected by opiate addiction. If someone from the mainland calls me up, I will refer them to a firm on the mainland. I'm very well connected with the law firms on the mainland that are doing this. I can refer them to a fine law firm, a high quality ethical law firm that can do the same thing for them wherever they live.
Wayne, there's a lot of great information, and thank you for helping us today with this very serious issue facing our country. Thank you so much.
Good to be here.
That's going to do it for today's episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been attorney Wayne Parsons of the Wayne Parsons Law Offices based in Honolulu, Hawaii. If you want the best information about opioid addiction, or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, please visit AskTheLawyers.com. Also, please take a second, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com.